Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Wednesday, January 18th. At the legislature today, a Senate committee gave quick approval to Asa Hutchinson's proposal to cut the tax rates for lower-income taxpayers, those making less than $21,000 a year. It seems slated to quick passage. It comes with a proposal by the governor to create a task force to study other ways of cutting the income tax, particularly to benefit higher-income people. There's a small point about this bill that hasn't been made clearly enough, and that is it would not take effect until the tax year of 2019. That is, the low-income taxpayers who get a small break, the first time they could possibly feel it would be on payroll withholding in January 2019. That's 2 years from now. This bill costs nothing, earns a little goodwill for Governor Asa Hutchinson in his election in 2018. Still plenty of time for the legislature to take it back and give it to rich people, I might note. That's a cynical view, but with this legislature, you never know. Democrats are continuing to push for an earned income tax credit, which is a give back of payroll taxes to poor people. It goes into the economy quicker. It's a better idea. I don't think it's going to get much traction with the Republican legislature. It could be done more quickly. It would be a good thing, but it would cost the state some money, and that's not on the cards so much these days. Elsewhere, there's sort of an interesting fight in legislative committee today. It's inside baseball of a sort. A legislative committee refused to approve a $34.5 million to change the firm that handles the Arkansas lottery advertising contract from Mang & Holcomb to CJRW. You may or may not care much about the ad business, but there's a lot of politics in this. CJRW has very close ties to Asa Hutchinson. This is an administrative agency. It wants to do its contracting as it chooses to do. It says it's been through a legitimate process, and CJRW should get the business. Some legislators seem to view it differently. This has been kicked back for more review. It may yet turn out, but this shows you even in a one-party state, which we are now as Republicans, sometimes the Republicans can quarrel with each other a little bit, so at least we get some entertainment value out of it. The governor made another little bit of news today. He went to Las Vegas for a big gun show that's held there every year and announced that Daisy, the BB gun, air gun factory in Rogers, been there for better than a half century, is going to expand by 25 jobs, joining up with another air gun manufacturer out of Florida and Missouri. The Democratic Party, we still have one in Arkansas, and they've set March 25th as the date to elect new officers. Vince Insulacco is standing down, resigning after several years as chairman. He tried hard, but they lost ground during his tenure. Michael John Gray, who's the House Democratic leader, wants to run for House Chair. Denise Gardner, a well-known name from Fayetteville, a philanthropist and community worker of long-standing, longtime Democratic Party activist, says she's going to run for chairman too. Those are the two leading candidates, and there may be others as well. So the Democratic Party is going to still try to make a showing in Arkansas, and we'll see in March who the new leadership is going to be. Interesting story this morning on Arkansas Blog, I think. There's a group called Friends of the Arkansas State Archives. A lot of them are genealogists, the people that go down to the state archives and rummage through records kept in the Big Mac buildings to do family research and other historical research as well. They're concerned that the state still has no plan for a new archives facility. The archives is now under the leadership of Stacey Hirsch at the Department of Arkansas Heritage. Their new headquarters doesn't have space for archives. There's apparently talk of just moving this stuff into a warehouse without adequate temperature and humidity controls to protect historical documents. I haven't been able to get a response yet from Hirsch's department on what its plans are, if any, because there's no space in their building. But it's interesting that department has also undertaken and just announced last week a series of meetings with state agencies to implement the governor's directive that the state do a better job in all of its agencies of preserving historical records and not to just throw them out in the trash. This is something that's been overlooked for years. Here's the problem. They're going to generate even more records for an archive that we don't have to store anything in. And in addition to this, we learned there's been some major shakeups at the Department of Arkansas Heritage. This is a little agency that runs museums and feel-good sorts of things, and it's been dogged by controversy ever since Hutchinson put Stacey Hirsch, the former city director, in charge. We'll see if they have anything to say about it. They're not very forthcoming these days. And back on the national scene, goings and comings. President Obama had his last press conference today. He goes out on a high note. Polls show him at a 60% favorable rating. Same polling shows that Donald Trump comes in with a 40% favorable rating, not very good, and based on what we've seen so far, not a prospect to improve that very much. Going to be interesting to see what happens inaugural day and the day after on Friday and Saturday. Trump is saying he's going to have a huge crowd. He touted some pictures of a bunch of bikers coming to his inauguration. Turns out those were fake pictures. That was not a picture of people coming to the Trump thing. We do know lots of women are going to be marching in Washington and in Little Rock Saturday as a protest symbol for women's rights and against the Trump election. I put a picture of myself in a pink pussycat hat last night on Facebook. Women in Washington are going to be wearing these as a symbolic protest, and the response was overwhelming, 700 or so comments. And I've given my hat, made by my wife, to a woman from Little Rock who's heading up to Washington for the march. She's done some righteous work in support of a woman's right to choose in Arkansas, and I think it's going to be in good hands, or on a good head, I should say. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.